Hello everybody, the Lawn Gnome is here. So if you haven't guessed by now, based on the t-shirt that I'm wearing, what we're going to be talking about today, we are going to continue on with my reviews of Zelda games, especially considering the fact that it is the 30th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda franchise. And I will also provide a link to my first review of Zelda video games, which I did earlier this year, in the box below. So today we're going to be talking about the direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time from 2000. It, of course, is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. This, of course, is the remaster for the 3DS that I will also be talking about today. But, of course, now, for the time, it was definitely one of the more innovational Zelda games, especially because of the fact that it featured putting on masks to take on certain forms in order to beat certain objectives. It was also a game that featured a time loop, which involved using your ocarina to go forward and backward, or even slow down or speed up time. It also featured a lot of side quests that were really important to the whole game itself, and also gave off a very, very darker and deeper tone. While the Legend of Zelda games have always been rich in story, it was Majora's Mask that a lot of people have called these days to be one of the most beautifully told Zelda stories because of its somber tones and a lot of things that people could relate to. But unfortunately, when it came out in 2000, it didn't have the impact that the Ocarina of Time had on the world, especially for someone who never actually beat the game. I never saw anything past the Great Bay Temple, and that's just because of the fact that the game was very complex, very confusing, and very, very hard to beat. And for me, it just kind of got lost. I loved the Ocarina of Time. I always played that game. I beat it numerous times, but I got very upset that I never actually finished this game. But with a little bit of patience and a little bit of time, with all of these remasters for the 3DS, I finally got my hands on the Majora's Mask game remastered, and without further ado, let's take a look at some clips as we go through the highs and low points of this remastered game. So like The Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, this game has gone through a massive upgrade. The graphics are absolutely beautiful. Much like its predecessor, it feels like it belongs in the same story, and all of the backgrounds and the stages, as well as the map of Termina itself, is just absolutely gorgeous. It's also got the same controls that the Ocarina of Time has on the 3DS, which are definitely a step up when it comes to maneuvering your character. I think two of the biggest highs for this game, of course, is the dual screen, which allows you to take a look at your inventory as well as your map, as well as all of the masks that you gather, especially if you are considering doing the side quest to complete the game. The side quest happen to be a very important piece of the game because it definitely is rich in story. Each mask allows you to get tons and tons of bonuses in the game, and they also are a very important piece because if you collect all the masks, there is a very specific mask that you get which gives you the opportunity to beat the final boss in the game much faster. You can still beat the boss at the end of the game without it, but this is just an added bonus. There are also a whole bunch of changes that were made in terms of where things are placed, like save points and certain things that you need to do in temples, like capturing fairies, or just finding other secrets for weapons that you can find in the game. A lot of people in the past found it very, very confusing and very hard to do, so the fact that they actually simplified it doesn't necessarily take away from the game, just makes your game playing overall much more enjoyable. The three main masks, like the Goron mask, the Deku Scrub mask, and the Zora mask, are also very important, and also there have been some upgrades in terms of how to use them. I remember the Deku mask probably being my hardest one to use, but they added a couple of features like a targeting system. If you also increased your magic meter so you are able to actually use your abilities a lot more efficiently. Also, probably the biggest improvement is the fact that you can use the rotating system, especially for targeting and mini games like using your bow and arrow, it definitely is a big step up from where it used to be. The dual screen is also very advantageous when it comes to the Bomber's Notebook, and the Bomber's Notebook is your most important piece in terms of all of your items, because of the fact that that is how you are able to time the clock for the side quests. All the side quests are important, and when you go into your Bomber's Notebook, you do have the ability to look at things much easier, and you'll be able to navigate through it much more efficiently. And when you actually open up another side quest, it will let you know right away, and if you complete it, it will let you know right away. I don't really recall it happening in the original game. I'm pretty certain that it did, and that's just because of the fact that the game was so challenging for me. I never really focused on going through the Bomber's Notebook. But along with these advantages, there definitely are some disadvantages. One disadvantage is the brand new dual screen abilities, because they're very different from the Ocarina of Time, and I do feel that sometimes it is a little bit confusing when you're wanting to look for your map, or whether you're wanting to look for your masks or your items. It just seems to me that it's a little bit more disorganized, but still, it's something that the more you play, the more you learn. The music was a big disadvantage. I really thought that maybe they would go into changing the music a little bit, because the first one was fantastic. The music was beautiful. I mean, you have the classic song in the Termina Field, but when it comes to the other locations, the music is just not good compared to the Ocarina of Time, and I really feel that they could have done a little something to maybe improve on that, but what can you do? However, I do feel that the biggest disadvantage, much like its original incarnation in the Nintendo 64, this is a game that you really can't do without a little bit of a strategy guide assistance. There are so many hidden things in this game that unless you've played this game in the past and you know this game backwards and forwards, you're going to miss something. The side quests are things that you may not know that much about, and the game really doesn't assist you in regards to figuring all of that out. Navigating through the dungeons is also very challenging. You really can't do that without a strategy guide, especially considering the fact that there are fairies in there that you need to gather in order to build great fairies and get new upgrades for your magic and your strength. It's just very difficult sometimes to find out where they're hiding. Now, granted, they've put a couple of changes into the game to change where the locations are so you can actually find them quicker, but having a strategy guide, or these days going onto YouTube for a walkthrough, is pretty much something that you need at this point in order to complete the dungeons, and more importantly, making sure that you collect all the masks and all the items to make sure that you are able to beat the game, because if you don't know where you're going in this game, you are pretty much lost. However, that's not going to say that the game is bad. You may need a walkthrough, that is true, but the game itself is still tons of fun, and it is also amazing with how many layers are in this game that it is one of the deeper and more thought-provoking Zelda games ever. You're not on a quest for Princess Zelda, you're on a quest for yourself, because originally he's looking for a friend. In this case, it is definitely something more. And it's even more incredible how many things were created through this one specific game. There are conspiracy theories, there are hidden creepypastas, there are just so many crazy things that were created through this one Zelda game. And through time, it not only has turned into one of the most talked about Zelda games of all time, it is now turning into what some may call the greatest Zelda game of all time. Now, I still have yet to beat it, I'm still in the middle of it, I'm heading up to Snowhead right now, but I'm really looking forward to completing this game and really seeing what I feel about this game as a whole. So that's it, everybody. Thank you very much for watching today on my review for Majora's Mask. I'm looking forward to December when I review one more Zelda game for the 30th anniversary of the franchise. But please leave your comments in the box below. Let's talk about Majora's Mask, and I will see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.